As the king and queen leave the thrones and head for the exit of Westminster Abbey of the coronation ceremony, you'll see that everyone bows and curtsies to the king, and no one moves a limb, a muscle, when Camilla passes.
For years, the palace allowed the public to believe that Camilla had willingly avoided one of the monarchy's most emotionally charged titles. But a former royal aide has now shattered that carefully protected version of events. Behind a closed door, Camilla had begged Charles for the title once held by Diana and Queen Elizabeth, personally intervened to stop it. What followed was not a simple disagreement over protocol. It was a battle over memory, legitimacy, and the future of the crown. Before we go deeper into what this really means for the royal family, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss a single update. The revelation emerged through a documented interview with a retired palace aide who had handled confidential correspondence for the royal household. He opened a cream-colored file and described the request in clear terms. Camilla had asked Charles to support her becoming Princess of Wales after their marriage. That title, traditionally used by the wife of the Prince of Wales, carried far more than rank. For her, it meant recognition, marital legitimacy, and an end to living beneath the shadow of Diana. Camilla did not present the request lightly. She told Charles that accepting duties while being denied the title attached to his position would leave her looking tolerated rather than accepted. Her voice stayed steady, but her hands tightened against the chair as she spoke. Charles felt the force of her humiliation. He also understood the danger. Giving her Diana's former title could reopen public grief, deepen resentment, and place William in a conflict no son should have to face. The decision reached Queen Elizabeth through a handwritten palace briefing. The monarch read the page twice, placed it flat on her desk, and called for her private secretary. A private secretary is the senior advisor who manages the sovereign's official business and sensitive communications. Elizabeth gave one instruction: Camilla must never be publicly styled Princess of Wales. The aide said that refusal was preserved in a confidential memorandum, meaning a restricted internal note used to record important decisions. Its language was controlled, but its meaning was severe. The title carried an emotional weight that marriage alone could not transfer. Charles could defend his wife, but he could not command the public to forget Diana. Elizabeth's judgment went deeper than public reaction. Behind it stood a promise connected to Diana, a concern for William, and a private conversation the palace had buried for years. To understand why the Queen acted with such finality, the story must move beyond protocol and into the emotional triangle, trapping Charles between the woman he loved, the mother he obeyed, and the memory he could never escape. The fight over the title did not begin with official papers. It began inside three very different hearts. Camilla saw the name as proof that she had finally been accepted. Charles saw it as a painful but necessary step toward protecting his second marriage. Elizabeth saw something far more dangerous, an attempt to place a new face over a title still carried in the public imagination by Diana. None of them entered the conflict untouched, and none could leave it without losing something. Camilla had entered royal life knowing that every smile would be judged, and every appearance compared with the woman who came before her. She accepted guarded introductions, limited affection from the public, and careful palace wording designed to avoid provoking old wounds. Yet marriage had changed what she expected. The Princess of Wales title was the traditional style linked to the wife of the heir to the throne, and she believed becoming Charles's wife should eventually bring full recognition rather than permanent hesitation. Charles felt the weight of that belief after dinner one evening, when the two were finally alone. He admitted that he hated watching her endure whispers, cold headlines, and the sense that she was permitted to serve but never fully allowed to belong. He reached toward her hand, then stopped when Camilla asked whether he truly saw her as equal to every royal wife who had come before. The question struck deeper than anger. It exposed the fear beneath her demand. Elizabeth carried a different burden. The Queen viewed titles as symbols of national continuity, not private rewards handed out to repair wounded feelings. She understood that one change on official paper could reshape how the public interpreted the monarchy itself. Before signing her refusal, she studied a photograph of William standing beside Diana at a royal engagement. The prince still connected that title to his mother, and the monarch knew that forcing him to see it transferred could damage his trust in both his father and the crown. The retired aide later explained in a documented interview that Camilla had proposed a gradual introduction. She did not demand immediate use at every engagement. Instead, she wanted the title placed first on formal documents, meaning official palace records, before it appeared publicly. Charles quietly supported that plan in a private message to his mother, warning that withholding the style made his marriage appear permanently second class. Elizabeth was not moved. She ordered every historical paper connected to the title brought from the royal archives, the secure collection where important records are preserved. Her concern had grown beyond Camilla's dignity. Something in those files, and one painful ceremony from the past, convinced her that the request carried a danger no compromise could contain. Her search would soon lead back to the moment when Camilla's private longing became impossible for the palace to ignore. Every palace conflict has a moment that changes private discomfort into permanent opposition. In this story, that moment came during a formal reception at Clarence House, when an aide introduced Camilla using a carefully approved lesser style. What appeared to be a minor piece of protocol struck her like a public rejection. Charles noticed. Elizabeth heard about it within hours, and before the evening ended, a quiet exchange beside a closed drawing room door set the entire title battle into motion. Camilla entered the Commonwealth reception determined to appear calm. The gathering brought together representatives from nations linked to the crown, making every introduction and seating decision especially sensitive. Another royal wife received full ceremonial recognition, while she was announced without the title traditionally connected to Charles' position. The printed program repeated the difference, so did the seating cards. Even the formal order of precedence, the official ranking that determines where members of the royal family stand, sit, and appear, placed the contrast before every guest. Charles watched her smile through it. He saw Camilla greet dignitaries, exchange polite remarks, and continue as though nothing had happened. Yet he also noticed her eyes returning to the program in her hand. Each glance carried the same silent question: how could she be expected to perform the duties of his wife, while palace language continued to present her as something less? The last guest had barely departed when Camilla removed her gloves and placed them sharply on a side table. Her control finally cracked. She asked Charles how much longer their marriage would be treated like an apology that had never ended. He tried to reassure her, but she pressed harder. She wanted to know whether the palace would ever recognize her fully, or whether Diana would remain present in every title she was denied. Charles felt guilt rise before he could answer. He told Camilla that he would speak directly to Queen Elizabeth, and that she should not remain symbolically beneath a woman who was no longer alive. The promise sounded brave in the silence between them, yet both understood that the title Princess of Wales was not simply a name. It had become bound to Diana in the public mind, and touching it could reopen every wound the monarchy had struggled to contain. A senior aide passing near the drawing room entrance heard Camilla say the title clearly. He later recorded the exchange in a confidential household briefing, a restricted summary used to inform senior palace officials about sensitive events. Before midnight, the message had reached Elizabeth through a private telephone account. The Queen did not respond with anger. She asked only whether William had attended and whether he had seen the printed program. The next morning, Charles received a personal summons containing no explanation, only a time and a room number. He expected a discussion about presentation. Instead, he was about to face his mother's most uncompromising defense of Diana's place in royal history. The door closed, leaving mother and son without courtiers, advisors, or the protection of official language. Charles had entered prepared to defend his wife. Elizabeth was already waiting beside a table holding two files, one bearing Camilla's name, the other containing records from Diana's years as Princess of Wales. The argument that followed never became loud. It did not need to. Every carefully chosen sentence carried decades of pain, resentment, duty, and a warning Charles could not ignore. Charles began without hesitation. He told his mother that Camilla was his lawful wife, and that permanently denying her the title made the monarchy look uncertain about the marriage it had accepted. The crown, meaning the institution and authority of the monarchy, could not demand years of service while refusing the recognition attached to that service. He argued that the palace had asked Camilla to endure hostility, restraint, and sacrifice, yet still treated her as though she remained outside the family. Elizabeth listened without interrupting. The Queen then reminded him that legality and emotional legitimacy were not the same thing. A royal title was more than wording on a marriage certificate. It was a public symbol shaped by memory, duty, and national feeling. The monarch warned that Diana's name had become deeply tied to Princess of Wales, and no document could force the public to separate the woman from the title. Charles felt his restraint slipping. He said Camilla had already endured years of punishment for choices made long ago. Elizabeth looked directly at him and answered that Diana's sons had also endured consequences they never chose. William had lost his mother, carried her memory into adulthood, and watched every public debate about the woman his father later married. The Queen would not deepen that wound simply to make the palace appear consistent. Charles accused the institution of expecting Camilla to work without dignity. His voice tightened as he argued that she could never prove herself, while the monarchy kept reminding the world that she was not considered equal. Elizabeth closed the file bearing her name. She replied that dignity could not be created by taking possession of another woman's symbolic legacy. The Queen then made the decision absolute. Camilla would not be publicly styled Princess of Wales, while Elizabeth remained sovereign, meaning while she continued to reign as monarch. Charles reached toward his notes, but his mother raised one hand. The discussion was over. Elizabeth opened the second file and showed him private correspondence, describing how strongly William connected Diana with the title. She warned that transferring it could fracture the remaining trust between father and son. Before Charles left, she told him he could protect his wife's future without erasing the emotional truth of his past. Charles walked toward the door, knowing he had lost the argument. Worse, he now had to face Camilla without the victory he had promised. Yet Elizabeth's authority rested on more than emotion. Behind her refusal stood advisors, public warnings, and one courtier whose judgment would turn a family dispute into a decision of state. Royal power is often most formidable when no one sees it moving. After confronting Charles, Elizabeth did not issue a public decree or summon a dramatic council. She asked for opinions, studied precedent, and allowed the machinery of monarchy to close around the title request. One advisor warned of national outrage. Another predicted damage to William. Yet the most decisive moment came when the Queen asked a trusted courtier one simple question: would the public see recognition or replacement? Elizabeth summoned her private secretary, constitutional advisors, and communications officials under strict instructions. A private secretary is the senior aide who manages the sovereign's official business and most sensitive correspondence. No one was to mention Camilla's request outside the room. No draft could circulate widely. No conversation could appear in ordinary household notes. The Queen wanted honest judgment without gossip, because one leak could turn a private dispute into a national crisis before any decision had been made. The advisors returned with warnings that cut in different directions but reached the same conclusion. Using the Princess of Wales title could dominate every royal engagement, revive anger over Diana's treatment, and weaken Charles's future role as monarch. A constitutional role is the public duty a royal performs within the structure of the state. If every appearance became a battle over the past, his work would be buried beneath the controversy surrounding his wife. A senior courtier then faced the hardest question. Elizabeth asked whether the public would see Camilla's new style as recognition or replacement. He respected Charles and understood the pain inside the marriage. Yet he could not soften his answer. The country would see Diana's title placed upon the woman most closely linked to the collapse of that marriage. It would not look like healing. It would look like substitution. Elizabeth absorbed the judgment in silence. After the advisors left, the Queen remained alone with the papers, removed her glasses, and pressed her fingers against her eyes. Protecting the institution meant disappointing her eldest son again. It also meant accepting that Camilla would carry another wound, created by the monarchy's need for caution. Officials proposed a controlled compromise. Camilla would publicly use a ducal style, a title connected to a duke, rather than the heir's traditional designation, while retaining the legal standing that came through marriage. The arrangement would recognize Charles's wife, without activating the name still bound to Diana. The Queen ordered the decision recorded in a restricted household memorandum, a confidential internal document preserving formal instructions. No press release, invitation, court circular, or ceremonial paper could describe Camilla as Princess of Wales. A court circular is the official daily record of royal engagements. The sealed answer reached Clarence House soon afterward. Camilla recognized Elizabeth's stationery before Charles broke the seal. She watched his face change as he read, and she understood the result before he spoke. The compromise had protected the monarchy. To her, it felt like a public future built upon private rejection. Camilla had prepared herself for hesitation, delay, even another round of negotiations. She had not prepared for a permanent refusal written in the Queen's unmistakable hand. When Charles returned, he carried the sealed decision, but could barely meet her eyes. The conversation lasted less than 20 minutes. Yet by the time it ended, a chair had been pushed away, an untouched drink had gone warm, and Camilla understood that marriage had brought her inside the monarchy, without freeing her from Diana's shadow. Charles began carefully. He explained that Elizabeth would not permit the Princess of Wales title to be used, now or later, while she remained sovereign. A sovereign is the reigning monarch who holds the crown's formal authority. He stressed the alternative public style approved by the palace and tried to describe it as protection rather than punishment. Camilla listened without interrupting. The more gently he spoke, the more final the decision sounded. The consequences moved quickly. Household staff received instructions to revise invitations, public biographies, seating documents, and future announcements. A public biography is the official description the palace uses to present a royal figure's role and status. Every trace of the proposed title had to disappear before it could reach the public. Charles told her the changes would prevent controversy. Camilla heard something else. The palace was preparing to erase a future she had already imagined. Camilla remained still until he finished. Then she pushed her chair away from the table and asked whether his mother considered their marriage real or merely tolerable. Charles insisted that the Queen was protecting the monarchy, not insulting his wife. She answered that the difference meant little when she was the one required to carry the humiliation. The institution would avoid public pain. She would absorb it privately. Charles tried to defend both women, but every sentence failed. He could not deny Elizabeth's fear of reopening Diana's wounds, and he could not dismiss Camilla's belief that the refusal marked her as permanently lesser. She reminded him that he had promised their marriage would end years of secrecy and compromise. Now, she said, the palace had only transformed secrecy into ceremony. Camilla reached for a draft engagement card bearing the title she had hoped to use. She folded it once and returned it to the envelope. Charles asked whether she wanted it destroyed. She refused. The card remained proof that, for a brief moment, she had believed the monarchy might finally accept her without conditions. That evening, Charles attended a scheduled briefing alone. Camilla stayed behind. An aide passing through the corridor noticed that the connecting door between their rooms, normally left open, had been closed. The door marked more than anger. It forced them to confront whether their marriage could survive a royal system that accepted their union while refusing to validate the symbol she desired most. There was no council table between them that night, no royal secretary waiting outside, and no document to absorb the blame. Charles entered Camilla's sitting room alone and found her beside the window, still dressed for an engagement she had canceled. For the first time, they spoke not as future king and royal wife, but as two people measuring the cost of the life they had chosen. One wanted recognition. The other knew that forcing it could destroy the fragile acceptance they had built. Charles asked the staff to leave and closed the door himself. He carried no prepared notes and offered no palace-approved phrases. This conversation would not be managed by advisors. It would be shaped by the truth they had both avoided. He sat opposite Camilla and explained that publicly challenging Elizabeth could create a constitutional crisis, meaning a conflict serious enough to damage the monarchy's ability to function with stability and public trust. Camilla listened as he described the family consequences. William could be forced into an impossible position, defending Diana's memory against the woman his father had married. The prince had already carried grief beneath years of duty, and Charles knew that reopening the title dispute might fracture their fragile relationship. Protecting Camilla by confronting the Queen could leave him losing his son. Camilla finally revealed what the title had meant to her. It was never only about rank, ceremony, or how her name appeared on paper. She wanted proof that Charles would choose her openly, without conditions imposed by history, palace officials, or public anger. She had spent years being treated as the source of royal pain. The title, in her mind, would have shown that their marriage was not merely accepted in private, but defended in public. Charles did not argue. He accepted that his earlier decisions had created the conditions she now suffered under. He refused to blame Diana, Elizabeth, or the public for wounds that began with his own choices. That admission changed the room. For once, Camilla did not have to fight him for an acknowledgement of the past. Charles then made a different promise. He would never pursue the Princess of Wales title again. Instead, he would ensure that Camilla built her future through her own service, and through the role she might one day hold beside him. Her place would not depend on inheriting Diana's identity. Camilla remained silent, then removed the folded engagement card from its envelope. She handed it to Charles and told him to lock it away. The campaign was over. The following morning, Camilla attended her engagement under the alternative style chosen by Elizabeth. She paused before stepping forward, then smiled not in victory, but with resolve. Their private settlement had ended the battle inside Clarence's house. Years later, however, a royal aide's documented account would expose the secret and force the public to reconsider everything it believed. The palace had contained the truth for years. Then, in a single morning, the secret escaped. Newspaper presses began running before dawn, broadcasters interrupted their schedules, and crowds outside royal residences held phones displaying the same extraordinary claim. Camilla had wanted Diana's title, Charles had supported her, and Elizabeth had refused. The revelation did not merely revive an old controversy. It transformed a private act of royal restraint into a national argument about memory, forgiveness, marriage, and the limits of reinvention. The former courtier broke his silence during a televised interview built around his documented account of palace correspondence. He described the sealed memorandum that preserved Elizabeth's instruction throughout her reign. A memorandum is a formal internal note used to record sensitive decisions. According to the Aide, the Queen had never left room for confusion. The Princess of Wales title would remain unused by Camilla while she remained sovereign. Palace officials responded within hours. Communications staff issued a short statement refusing to discuss private conversations between members of the royal family. The wording was careful, but the restraint only deepened public suspicion. Officials did not deny the document. They did not challenge the aide's memory. Their silence turned the interview from an uncomfortable story into a national obsession. Charles saw the first major headline at breakfast. Diana's photograph appeared beside the words describing his support for Camilla's request. He lowered the newspaper before reaching the final paragraph and left the room without finishing his meal. An equerry, meaning a royal aide who assists a senior member of the family, noticed that he departed moments before his wife arrived. The old conflict had returned, and once again, he stood between two women whose names the public refused to separate. Camilla faced a harsher version of the story. A broadcaster described her request as an attempt to take Diana's place. She switched off the television and said quietly that the title had represented acceptance, not conquest. For her, it had been proof that the marriage was real. To millions watching from outside, it looked like an effort to claim a memory that was never hers. The public reaction became impossible to contain. Outside Kensington Palace, crowds gathered near the gates where floral tributes to Diana had once covered the ground. One woman held a newspaper bearing the front page words, "The title, the Queen refused," above photographs of Diana, Elizabeth, and Camilla. The image captured the entire conflict in one frame: grief, judgment, and a future still trapped inside the past. Yet opinion began to divide. Many praised the Queen for protecting Diana's legacy. Others saw Camilla's request as the desperation of a woman who knew she might never be fully welcomed. Then the aide offered one final detail. Elizabeth had never called Camilla unworthy. She had called the title untouchable. That distinction changed everything. The decision had not rejected Camilla's future. It had drawn a firm boundary against erasing Diana's past. In the end, the battle was not won by Camilla, Charles, or even Elizabeth. It was resolved by time. Camilla never received the title she had once begged to carry, yet she eventually found a place beside Charles that did not depend upon borrowing Diana's identity. The Queen's refusal remained firm, but it was not designed to punish. It established a line the monarchy would not cross. The future could be accepted, but it could not be built by pretending the past had lost its meaning. Camilla continued royal life under a different public style, allowing the monarchy to recognize her marriage without disturbing the title still tied to Diana in the public mind. The Princess of Wales title is traditionally associated with the wife of the heir to the throne, but its meaning had grown beyond ceremony. It carried memories of service, loss, and a woman whose place in royal history could not simply be transferred through marriage. Elizabeth's decision also prevented a controversy that might have followed Camilla into every engagement. Each speech, charity visit, and formal appearance could have become another argument about Diana. Charles would have faced renewed criticism, while William might have felt forced to defend his mother's memory against his father's choice. The Queen understood that one title could deepen a family division the monarchy could not afford. Camilla eventually reached a painful understanding. Wearing the title would not have delivered the acceptance she wanted. It might have ensured that every public appearance became another comparison she could never win. The name she believed would free her from Diana's shadow could instead have trapped her inside it forever. Charles accepted the same boundary from another direction. He realized that defending his wife did not require claiming every symbol connected to his first marriage. By ending the campaign, he protected Camilla from a role that might have become a permanent burden. He also protected his relationship with William from a conflict that no official explanation could easily repair. The former royal aide made Elizabeth's true intention clear in his final documented account. The monarch never wanted to erase Camilla from royal life. She wanted to stop the institution from erasing Diana, merely to make a difficult transition easier. Her refusal preserved memory without denying the future. That became the final verdict. Camilla lost the title she believed would prove she belonged, but the loss allowed her to build an identity of her own. Charles learned that love could not undo history. Elizabeth proved that monarchy survives by carrying its memories forward, rather than rewriting them. There is no unresolved battle left behind. Camilla was accepted without becoming Diana. Charles preserved his marriage without overturning his mother's decision. And the Queen protected a title that belonged as much to public memory as to royal protocol. The refusal caused pain, but it prevented a deeper wound. That was its final meaning, and its lasting verdict. Thanks for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and we will see you in next one.